I am Jennifer Regular, host of the Awaken and Ascend podcast, where we focus on embodying your authentic power and conscious leadership. And I'm so happy and grateful that I get to bring guests from all around the world, real change makers, real way showers for us who just get to share what they feel called to. And a lot of them come from their career or corporate life into their calling. And today I get to bring in a guest back again who is eager to share a new operating system for human connection. And he is Jake Stahl, who has become a go-to advisor for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to improve their communication skills, elevate their presence, and earn the respect the moment they speak. Own the Room is the definitive guide to the psychology of being seen, heard, and taken seriously, no matter who's sitting across from you. Welcome back, Jake. I am so excited to hear about this new book. So let's get you owning the room and share with the audience who you discovered yourself to be and the work that you feel so deeply called to right now.
Yeah. So, Jennifer, first of all, thank you for having me back. It's an honor. I listen to your show, love your show. So, being on it is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um, Jennifer, I went through a hard time in life about 13 years ago. After a third knee surgery, I became addicted to opioids, and it led to a, a 2 year slide where I lost my house, my marriage, savings. And it was really a time of self discovery. But the thing that was a pain point that led me to writing the book was I had trouble getting back into rooms that I was in before. I was a nationally recognized speaker. I have 7 patents. I was quoted in dozens of books. And yet, all of a sudden, I was a pariah. And I had to figure out ways to get back into arenas that I thought would accept me back based on reputation and wouldn't. So really the book is a culmination of what I did to go from being an outcast to getting back into the business world again and where I am now, which is the owner of a multi-million-dollar company, happily married now for 8 years to my second wife, who's amazing, new relationships with my kids, a beautiful home. Um, but yeah, the addiction was really what led me on this journey back, and it's a big part of why I developed the method I wrote about in the book.
Hmm. Yeah, and we often hear that rejection is redirection, right? A tremendous pivot that made
Amen.
life way better than could have been imagined. And that's the thing, we
Yeah,
try to get back to the way things used to be, and they're just not. They're just not.
yeah,
It's time to move forward and to be the person we've become now and move more into who we're still becoming and
yeah,
onto greater things, onto different parts of ourselves that are wanting to be expressed, that they deserve to be expressed. And then notice what happens when they are,
yes,
this tremendous life
yes.
and business and whole integration of what it means to be on this earth at this time is coming about now because of that. And I noticed from some of the write up in your book about how leaders actually lose the room within the first 5 seconds.
Yep,
That's
very true.
crazy. Five
Yeah,
seconds, and so that
yeah,
impression is so important right from the beginning. So before we even speak, people feel our energy.
yeah.
Right. And
There was an
so is that
amazing,
what you focus on too?
yes,
Mm,
100% correct. Jennifer, we all do something called thin slicing.
mm,
And thin slicing is a psychological process where we judge people in the first 10 seconds.
mm,
Sometimes it's milliseconds, sometimes it's 2 seconds, but they actually proved this in an amazing study. They took a bunch of college kids and they showed them 2 to 10 seconds of presentations by different professors. But the weird thing was they didn't have the sound on. So all they could do was judge by looking at them and just seeing what their brain took in.
mm,
Then they took a second group of students who had those very professors for a full semester and had listened to them give their presentations. With both groups, they'd given a questionnaire with different adjectives like trustworthy, fluent, etc. And they had to fill those out, both the group that only saw 2 to 10 seconds and the group that saw the professors for a whole semester. What was amazing, Jennifer, was the two questionnaires were almost identical in their answers.
Oh, wow.
meaning the people that saw him for 2 to 10 seconds without any sound judged as accurately as someone who had them for a full semester. So, in the first 2 to 10 seconds, people are deciding who you are and whether they're going to listen to you. And then the brain spends a lot of energy trying to support the conclusions you came up with. So, if I think Jennifer is great, I keep looking for clues that shows Jennifer is great. And if I see something that says Jennifer may not be great, my brain fights that
Mm.
and says, Jake, you already made the decision that she's great. Just go with that. So, yes, most leaders underestimate how important first impressions and body language actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much of our communication is nonverbal. And that's why I
Yeah,
do the show on YouTube, because then we get to see that. People can just listen if they want and go off and do their thing. But then there's the opportunity to really see each other and connect and have that
yeah.
visual and be able to have the best of both worlds, really. But true to form, right now, there's a lot of people that aren't face to face. They're texting or emailing or finding
Yep.
ways where we're not actually seeing each other. I mean, even
Yeah.
going out to a restaurant, you see people sitting across from each other, and both are, or the whole family even, can be on their phones and not even communicating with each other. So, how does that come into play?
So that's a great question. And here's what happens. People then need to judge you by based on what they see on social media.
Hmm.
So they judge you by your headshots and they judge you by the pictures that you put up. And Jennifer, to tell you the importance of a headshot, there's three things in a headshot that can show whether you're trustworthy or not.
Hmm.
The first is a huge smile. The second is great posture or leaning in.
Hmm.
And the third is, this is the cool one, the third is a slight tilt of the head, which you actually have right now.
Oh, okay.
This the slight tilt of the head exposes your jugular, and it shows that you're okay exposing a very sensitive part of your body, that you trust that person that's looking at your picture, and that kind of makes them want to trust you. And this has been proven time and again. So if all I'm getting is text from you or all I'm getting is emails, and I go to look at your headshot, I'm now deciding from that whether you're trustworthy.
Hmm.
So if you have a picture of yourself hang gliding or laying with your dog on the sofa, or it's a picture of you and two friends, but you've cropped the two friends out, you may be hurting your chances of actually forming a relationship with that person on the other side.
Oh, wow.
So this is all about signals, and it's the first letter in strata in my book, which is what are you signaling to other people that they should trust you or want to listen to what you have to say?
Oh, that is a great, great thing to be reflecting on. What is the signal that you're putting out
Right.
there? Yeah.
And what is my signal triggering in you?
Mm.
So if I
Mhm.
send out a signal, is that triggering something inside you? It could be you like me, or it could be, hey, that's the way my dad looked when he yelled at me when I was 7.
Mm.
So you don't know what you're triggering the other person. And it's important to keep in mind that there is a war going on inside people's heads 24/7, and they are both sides. They're the good side and the bad side. So they're always jockeying as to what they're thinking. And if we think our words are the only things the other person's hearing, we're really fooling ourselves.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know it yourself. You always have internal dialogue, right?
Absolutely. Yes, constantly.
So if I do a certain signal and their internal dialogue is telling them a different story than I am, that's a little bit of a conflict. So my book goes through exact detail of how to signal properly, how to hold presence, how to understand what you trigger in somebody. And all of this, Jennifer, takes place in seconds.
Really?
Seconds,
Wow.
which is
So
the
you can
scary
clear
thing.
all those distortions within seconds. And how do we do that, Jake?
Well, first of all, it's controlling your own signal. How is
Okay.
your presence when you're talking to somebody else?
Mm.
The second is if you do trigger something, like you and I are talking, and let's say you start tapping your pen,
Mhm.
the first thing to do with the other person is name it. Jennifer, I saw you start tapping your pen. Looks like I might have got your tail wagging on something. Tell me what's going through your head.
Mm.
Many people, and I think you talk about this on your show quite a bit, people want to be seen and heard and understood.
Yes.
And if their body language is showing that there's a discomfort level, asking them about it is allowing them to be seen and heard.
Mm.
And you asking makes you want to understand. So the book talks about recognizes a signal, seeing what you're triggering, and understanding it so that dialogue is always there.
Yeah. Jake, it's interesting because even the word triggering can be triggering.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like triggering. It's like I feel this like slight contraction almost about
Yeah.
getting triggered. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost a violent word too, because you pull the trigger, and
Yeah.
send that kind of signal. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to me to think of it in terms also as activation.
Right.
Something getting activated within us. There's a little charge and there's a little energy. And then in the same vein, though, activation is being something like an aha moment,
Correct.
right? As
Yep.
in something that's resonant, something that's coherent, or maybe incoherent, or creating a distortion, like you mentioned.
Right.
It made me think of Alma, like the hugger, and just having this radiant energy. And there's other people, I can't remember his name. There's a man who's very well known, and I can't remember his name, where he doesn't speak at all. He just stands there and he tunes into the audience, and everyone's just
Oh, wow.
mesmerized by this magnetism, right? And so to me, those are also signals that activate something in someone where they resonate and they don't even know what or why this is happening. So it's not so
Exactly.
much ahead in trying to figure it out, it's just a felt experience.
Yeah.
And so, how does
Yep.
that come into your framework as well, having that kind of felt experience, that resonance?
Well, the whole thing in my book is we don't try to get too much into the minutia of what the body language means or,
Okay.
if they cross
Hmm.
their arms, what does that mean?
Right.
It basically talks to you about just calling it out.
Okay.
Joe, I saw you lean back in your chair. Help me pick apart what I just said and poke some holes in it.
Yeah.
So I'm just inviting them to open up a little bit. But
Okay.
the critical next piece, Jennifer, is reframe. So they're
Mm.
going to have a perception that I may need to reframe into a different light for them to understand.
Right.
And the best example I can give is if a doctor says to me, Jake, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have something that has a 20% mortality rate. That's a crappy message to hear. But if I reframe that and I say, okay, but what you're saying is there's an 80% survival rate, that's a reframe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking the same messaging and getting them to look at it from a different angle. And this happens to us all the time. We can all remember that time when somebody said something a certain way and you're like, I never thought about it like that.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the
Yeah.
light goes on. So after we trigger, it's important to be able to offer a strong reframe so that we stay on task. And the book goes into a lot of detail about how to reframe and what the most common reframes are to the most common objections we hear.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually just demonstrated that without even knowing that was the next thing. Sharing about how trigger could be triggering and then
Correct.
reframing it as an activation or a little emotional charge or something like that. So we have the signal, we have the reframe. What
Yep.
comes after that?
After that, you need to anchor somebody. So, what we need to do is when we bring up a concept, we want to anchor it. And we do that by tying in emotion. So, how can I get them emotionally tied to the subject that we're talking about? And the example I use in the book was I was coaching a sales team and they hated rejection, but they had to pretend they didn't they didn't mind the rejection. And my comment to that was, what would it look like if you didn't have to pretend?
Hmm.
And they said, we'd actually have to give a crap about what was going on. That became the anchor. We put up a
Mm.
sign in their office that said, give a crap. Even the CEO wrote me an email and said, what's this give a crap sign that's up? But every time they started to not care, they anchored to that sign and
Mm.
said, oh, this is what our focus is supposed to be.
Mm.
So an anchor is just kind of a reminder or a rock place you can grab onto to remember what the objective is.
Mm. And I know that you're into neurolinguistics and
Yep.
neuroscience, right? So there's
Yep.
actually physical anchors that you can do as
Oh
well to
yeah.
memory. Yeah. Did you want to share
Yeah.
any of those?
Sure. So, one thing I do with my clients is if they're feeling really good about something that just happened,
Mm-hmm.
or I can get them to conjure up the last real victory they had where they got emotionally involved,
Mm.
I get them to do a signal. My favorite one is tapping the wrist. Nobody just taps the wrist like this for the heck of it, but I get them to tap the wrist. And when they associate that good feeling with that wrist tap enough, when they're feeling down and they tap their wrist, they often find that it brings back that flow of emotion
Mm.
that they've had. And
Mm.
anchoring in NLP is extremely popular.
Hmm.
How do you anchor good emotion? How do you anchor yourself in the thought that you're not going to think failure thoughts anymore? So, anchoring is very psychologically proven and used not just in NLP, but in behavioral psychology.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that tip and
Sure.
that share. Yeah.
Yep. Then, after your anchor is transfer. So transfer means how do I make my idea your idea? How
Mm.
do I get you to take ownership?
Okay.
Because when many people make a purchase, they have buyer's remorse after they do it, if they were
Mm.
forced into the sale.
Mm-hmm.
So transfer is how do I get them to make the idea their own? And an
Ah.
example would be, let's say you were teaching a podcasting course and you wanted them to take the course with you. You could say to them, so what would you name your podcast? What would your audience member demographic look like? How long's your podcast going to be? So you're getting them to take ownership of the idea to the point where they've modeled it with exactly they want it modeled, and now it's their idea
Yes. Yes. I see.
because they'll defend that then. The problem with ideas we give nowadays is we give it to them, but it doesn't hold up to punishment or questions from people once you're no longer in the room.
Hmm.
Transfer is about making the idea so much theirs that if somebody says that's not a good idea, they defend it. So
Wow.
transfer is making the idea theirs.
Wow, that's really powerful. Yeah.
Yep. And then the last piece is action. So if I did strata properly, if I did the techniques in the book properly, action, what some salespeople call closing, is just a natural byproduct. It's the only logical ending to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if a leader wants people to take action, the action should be so obvious and beneficial that really it's the only thing that makes sense to do.
It's a natural consequence of the signal and the reframe and the
Correct.
anchor and
Yep.
the action. Yeah.
Transfer.
Transfer and then the action.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Strat is just a framework for getting a person from point A to point B. And again, this sounds long and complicated, but when you spend time in each of the sections, and once you start to see signals,
Mm-hmm.
and once you start to recognize triggers, you can't unsee them. And it becomes just unconscious.
Well, yeah, because then you've really embodied the process and it's just a natural
Correct.
way of being and speaking and showing up in the world.
Yep.
It's not just about what you're speaking, what you're saying, it's actually how you're showing up. And I know for visionaries, that's absolutely true. It's that it's our energy and passion that has the
Yeah.
greatest impact, not what we're saying or doing. And so I can see how the framework really fits into that as well. And I'm curious about like how do you introduce it to people? And also just an observation is how observant the speaker also has to be to notice these things, to notice what's being triggered so that they can offer that reframe and to name it, as you're saying. So the speaker is
Yeah.
actually doing a lot of listening and a lot of being fully present and aware
Yes.
and observing what's going on at the same time that they're speaking. So a little
Yeah.
bit of a multitasking in a different sense, but how do you introduce this to people?
Yeah. So this is a step process.
Mm.
Usually, what I do when I work with a client is I have them just look for signals for a full week. If somebody puts down a pen, notice it. If somebody
Mm.
leans back in their chair, just notice it. If somebody folds their arm, just notice it. So don't take any action, just look. And what people realize is when they do that for a week, they become hypersensitive to it.
Mm.
Oh, Jen, I see you tilted your head. Oh, Jen, I see that I made you frown for a second or I made you smile. So when you start noticing signals, you can't unsee them and it becomes unconscious.
Hmm.
After that, you start to notice what caused that signal to come from them. So is it something you said that caused them to give you that signal? So that's a trigger. So now think about what you're saying and what it triggers in the other person. So it's a weekly process where each week we introduce something new.
Hmm.
And what winds up happening is 9.5 people out of 10 that I coach this with, within about 6 weeks of just taking a week at a time to notice each thing, become incredibly good at the process.
Wow.
But
Wow.
this is like a diet, Jennifer. If you just say, okay, tomorrow I'm cutting out all carbs, nobody's going to do that, right? I mean, we survive for a couple of
Let's
days
be
and it's
real.
like, I
Yeah.
need a donut.
Yeah.
But, if this week I cut out French fries,
Hmm.
and then the next week, maybe I cut out, I go from two donuts down to one a day. The gradual process makes it easier. And that's what we do with Strata. We make it very gradual. And
Hmm.
if I'm being honest, we talk about the book from a business perspective, but I also put in a chapter about how this works with relationships,
Yeah.
how the deterioration of a signal inside a marriage eventually leads to separation or people just not speaking with one another or no longer being fulfilled. So Strata works in the personal life as much as it works in the business life.
Wow. Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know about this process? How can they even connect with you about it if they want to learn more, they get trained in this process? What can they do?
Yeah, so I'll address the first question first. Yeah, there's a lot to know. We talk about reading the room, so that
Mhm.
implies more people.
Mm.
So actually in the book it talks to you how to talk to you about how to work with an audience. Who do you focus on? There's typically three people in an audience that control the entire room. So it talks to you about how to recognize who those people are and how to work with them effectively. It also talks about what happens when the whole room is chaos. When there's an
Mhm.
emergency, everybody's yelling, things are high in tension. It talks with you about how to deal with that.
Hmm.
So Strata really works on a bunch of different levels. I even give a story about me with a timeshare salesman and how I went in ready to buy, and he actually transferred me away from buying and anchored me into taking a lower deal.
Oh, wow.
So I talk about the mistakes that were made in there and why that's common in a sales or leadership process.
Huh.
If people want to reach out to me, I am Jake Stahl on LinkedIn. You can find me. I'm the CEO of Orchestrate. So that'll set me out from the other 300 Jake Stalls that are on there. If they want to follow me on social media, I'm Jake the Mind Mechanic, which is on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I have a podcast called Own the Room with Jake Stahl. That's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then, of course, there's my book, Own the Room: How to Communicate to Be Seen, Heard, and Respected, which is available on Amazon or anywhere fine books are sold.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Jake, because I really do want people to connect with this. I even heard that there's book clubs happening with your book right now. So people are really
Yes.
taking this on, and that's so exciting because
Yeah.
that really creates the momentum and drive for the collective transformation that ultimately we're all here to be a part of in our own unique ways. And so
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I'm so glad you had that pivot so early on, and
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
to move you in this direction because it's having so much profound impact. There's a lot of people that are being drawn to this kind of work and to this way of relating and of this new operating system for human connection, which is so vital right now, especially in our digital age. We were talking earlier about how we're both Gen Xers and we know what
Yeah.
life was like before and after the internet. And there's generations now within us that don't. They only know the digital age. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to
Yep.
find a way to really more deeply connect through that and to be able to witness the what would anchor someone, how to transfer it, how to notice the signals, how to notice the triggers. And yeah, it would be a tough thing in the digital age. And so I know that that gets addressed as well. And Is there
Well,
anything
this
else
is
that
I
you
love
have
what
to
you do,
share?
Jennifer.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
love the way you talk about human connection. I
Uh,
love the way you talk about communication. And I think
mm,
you offer so many amazing insights on how we can just be more together by
hmm.
communicating properly and understanding where we are. So this is why I love your podcast and I love what you're doing
Thank
because I
you.
think it's a dying art. And my granddaughter will not know life without AI.
Mm,
So I kind of worry about where that's heading.
wow.
Will
Wow.
people be able to communicate at all anymore, or will AI be every word that we say? So
Mm,
it'll be interesting to see how things evolve over the next 5, 10 years.
yeah.
The one thing I will say is for people who love AI, I do, by the way, for
Yeah.
people who love AI, just remember, eventually you need to talk to somebody. And so these techniques are going to work in your favor.
Yes, absolutely. You're leaving such a legacy behind, Jake, with all the different companies you're in. I know you're even involved in the AI, and that's going to leave a legacy for your granddaughter to be able to
Yeah.
experience it in the way that you would like her to. And so all of these links that you've mentioned are going to be in the video description so that
Thank
people
you.
can just simply click into that and be able to see all these different pathways for human connection, for communication, for conscious leadership. And so I'm just thrilled to have you back on the show, Jake. I'm going to connect this with the other video, the conversation that we had as well, because I think you shared
Thank you.
so much there. And orchestrate, you mentioned that. Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that as well before we close this out?
Yeah, so I created a term called neurostrategy, which is the combination of behavioral psychology, social psychology, and neurolinguistic programming, and how to use the three of those together to communicate effectively.
Oh, wow.
And I use that to coach my corporate clients and my individual clients. And about a year and a half ago, I thought this would be a really cool SaaS product if we could create an AI that teaches that exact same thing. So, Orchestrate is a tool for business owners and it helps you create your offer, value prop, elevator pitch. It helps you with emails, translating transcripts, seeing where you lost sales. It'll help you create landing pages.
Oh my
It'll
gosh.
help you create marketing pieces. But the thing that separates it out is that it's all based on psychological research and it creates verbiage and paragraphs that work with exactly the way the mind makes decisions and assimilates information.
Oh, wow.
So even the sentence structure is taken into consideration when Orchestrate creates verbiage for you. It's an amazing tool, and the companies that are using it right now are reporting back nothing but great reviews.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Oh my goodness,
Yeah,
Jake. So just a little bit more on the personal side, you have a lot going on.
yeah,
You have a lot
yeah, I do.
going on. So, what sustains you in this work? What keeps you going? What makes it sustainable for you as a human being, being able to do all of this and the family and the wife and all of it? How do you maintain momentum in all areas of your life?
It
What makes
depends on what time of day you ask me.
okay, fair?
But since you're asking me now on a Friday,
Uh-huh.
I would say my wife is my inspiration. She's very supportive. She's a person I talk to as a confidant and a best friend, which has been an amazing thing. But the other is I have this passion for helping people communicate better than they have been. And that's really what Orchestrate was all about was how do we get small business owners and leaders to be more effective at communicating? Because here's a sad fact, Jennifer. This year, 5 million new businesses are going to start.
Wow.
At the end of the year, 40% will close their doors.
Yeah.
At the end of 5 years, 90% will have closed their doors. And it's not for lack of good ideas,
Mm-hmm.
it's they don't know how to market or sell or communicate. And that's the bridge that Orchestrate creates for people.
Hmm.
You take your genius, you let Orchestrate help you communicate the key pieces, and watch your business just grow and thrive.
Wow. Wow, I love it. Yay. Well, keep it going, Jake.
Thank you.
Through all days of the week, through all space and time. Keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah, and I can see the momentum that it's created and continues to create. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me and
Well,
with
I'm
the
honored to be
audience
back.
today. Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. And thank you to each and every one of you that have been tuning in to Awaken and Ascend today. I'm Jennifer Regular. You'll find out more about the other things I do outside the podcast down below in the video description as well. Bye for now.